Welcome to another episode of Money in the Bank with Frank, brought to you by Sig Spectrum. Today we have a smattering of topics to talk about. It's tax time coming up, right? Everyone start looking for these 1099s and W-2s in the mail. If you haven't gotten them soon, maybe reach out, make sure you get them. Before we get into any more, why don't we go ahead and start off with some disclosures. Thanks. So I get up this morning, ran into the studio a little late because two different telephone calls today regarding things that are, tax related. So I know that my life is basically over until more or less April 15th. I may be out of town, but I won't be away from my phone. I haven't gotten this tax form. What's this? How do we do this? I don't know that I like my bookkeeper. Pretty sure that my accountant is on vacation. I don't know, just hand holding, here we come. But, the most important thing is just make sure you get all those tax documents. Here's a fun one for you. So I was owed money back myself personally last year and was expecting, great, I won't have to pay as much this year. Just hold it, right? And then I get a notice in the mail from the IRS saying that, oh, you still owe us money. We took all the money that you said you owed because you owe it from a previous year, several years ago. And so, of course, I reached out to my accountant, and the accounting firm said, we filed both of the corporates, but it looks like we forgot to file your personal return. Now, obviously, for a lower amount of money, maybe somebody would have been like, oh, man, that sucks. But yeah, no. So I reached back out and I said, what do I want to do? Do I want to fight this or not? And of course, you're going to file an amended return, but it's simple. At least we have a process for it. But if you don't pay attention, if you don't notice things like that, if something doesn't look right, and as my father said many years ago, if something doesn't look right, it probably isn't. So make sure you follow up on anything like that. Make sure you get all of your records, get all your tax receipts. Make sure you save all of your stuff. And that will really, really help when it comes to tax preparation. Now, on that same topic, how are you going to file your taxes? We have a pretty wonderful system now. You've got all the different online vendors, and they're all really great products. They're so sophisticated. As long as you know a small bit of information, it will literally pre-fill all the information that was sent to them by your employer. And it makes it really difficult for you to screw up anything. So before you go out and you use a professional tax preparer, try it first on your own and then go see your standard preparer and see who came out with a better number. If you came out with a better number, you might be able to do it next year on your own. Things are getting that good. Software has come a long way. So make sure you take a look at that stuff. And if you do have any questions or something is a little off in your financial situation that is usually, different than the average bear, then you may really want to consider going to see a tax professional. All right. That's what we've got on that. Now, today I actually have one of the producers here with us as well, and I'm going to use him to talk and banter about some things because I just find it really fascinating. I mentioned to you about I know I sent it to Sohill, Johnson & Johnson worker alleges company overpaid for drugs.
And who's surprised really in this room, but given what we know, but I guess maybe the rest of the world might be.
What I'm very upset about, and here's my couple of minute rant. I have been working on a paper for about a year, literally a month and a half, 2 months on paper. And it's in that editing phase where I know that I've never written anything for professional copy. And so it's going around from friend to friend, colleague, coworkers, going through and editing it, and thought for sure by now it would have been published. The way that this lawsuit reads, and I actually got a copy of the complaint. I just shook my head, shook my head. I was like, this could have been my paper. This could have been my paper.
It's probably maybe a little bit more overt about promotion of some of the things that were better alternatives than you would have been, because you're actually trying to point out the flaw in the law, and they're saying, no, here's some actual companies that do it better.
That actually, and do it better, right? The best part about this, I don't know, I'm not an attorney, so I really don't know how these complaints work and, what the actual damages are, what the things are, but it reads to me almost like an advertisement for what is happening and some solutions out there. So they actually had, in many cases, they talk about a specific drug on the formulary.
Set up the complaint real quick because we're not sure what we're talking about yet.
So if you go to page 2 on there and zoom in so I can see a little bit better. So what's going on here is someone who, from first glance, who worked at Johnson & Johnson and was having some issues with her own health insurance unrelated to this specific issue, but because she works in compensation, she understands. Like, let's take this a little further. This is Johnson & Johnson. This is a company that actually manufactures pharmaceuticals. So if you want to talk about one of the most sophisticated payers on the planet, they know how this game works. They make the drug, they have a list price, and depending upon if it's on formulary or not, it may be a good price or a bad price passed through by middlemen and brokers in, for my opinion, most of the time collusion, to then present one of 3 options to a payer, and all the options are bad, right? And she's pointing out that the system hasn't even allowed her to make a difference. And so in this particular case, she's suing people that are on the committee at Johnson & Johnson, the benefit committee, including and naming, by the way, individually the people here for breaches of fiduciary duties and other violations under ERISA. Now, I don't know if you know anything about ERISA lawsuits, but it's going to cost $10 million plus probably to just defend it, even if it isn't, because you have to counter all these complaints. If you go down into the, I don't know, page, feel like it's 30 plus, it just starts going over example after example, like this one right here. This is just part of the complaint. Defendants agreed to make payments, and take a look, scroll up a little bit more. Yeah, right there. Defendants agreed to make the plans and their beneficiaries pay, while defense agreed to a price of $16.29 for a 90-day supply of XYZ drug, and the same prescription is available at Rite Aid for $123, Walmart for $127, ShopRite for $154, Wegmans for $175, Cost Plus online for $210. Right? There is a point here. Cost Plus isn't always the cheapest price, but the point is you can shop around. And they're saying in every one of these complaints and examples, no prudent fiduciary would agree to make its plan and beneficiaries pay a price that is 13 times higher than the price that the drug is widely available, right? So this is just one of so many examples in that, and it's not even the worst, right? There's some in there that are cancer drugs that are, easily available for, a lot lower. Yeah, for as little as $40 at a retail pharmacy, and the health plan agreed to pay more than $10,000 for that drug to treat multiple sclerosis.
Who in the system is the prime beneficiary in the distance in the delta on price there? Is it the pharmaceutical company or is it some middleman?
It depends. It depends. Like it's kind of, in some cases it's a combination of 2 or 3 of these things. So, no better, let's be clear. There is not a single fiduciary. There's not a person named on that plan as a named fiduciary or somebody that's in that role that has any real understanding of the way that the business works. You could be in this industry for 20 years and you still will be shocked at what you see that's going on behind the curtain. So even if you are a employee benefit advisor that is the good guy, a really good person that thinks that no, really, I have shopped around, I have seen all these different plans, this is a good price, all the prices are bad. And they don't know any better. So for them, because it's the lowest price, it's the best price they can get, but it's not the best price for, in many cases, the payer. It's just really frustrating because you see that the most sophisticated payer, one of the most sophisticated payers, an actual drug manufacturer who has an employee benefit advisor and also has a pharmacy benefit manager, and they understand all the players and they know what's going on, and yet they haven't gotten themselves out of it. So it's interesting in that I don't know what happens. I don't know what happens with the case. It obviously is going to educate, because now it's on record exactly how they're seeing it from that payer's point of view. But the real broadcast here for everyone to consider is that they're literally showing you what the most sophisticated payer is doing wrong. And if you don't do something about it yourself, or at least try to find somebody that's going to be able to explain this to you and try to help you out of some of these problems and pitfalls. We talked about the sword and the shield last time I talked about this, where it's like you've got the Consolidated Appropriations Act of 2021, which gives you the ability to ask for the data, right? Gets rid of gag clause, questionnaire. How much is my broker paying? What am I paying all of the different people up and down the supply chain with disclosed and undisclosed compensation? You have the power to get this data. And if you don't use that power that you've been given through the Consolidated Appropriations Act, you could fall victim to being the person who's attacked because you didn't even take the tools you had and use them to get the data that you needed. So that's what I think this is. This is really kind of a big wake-up call. Who wouldn't go after literally one of the largest companies? You know, I don't know where their rank is exactly. Maybe we can figure that out, put that up next. But legitimately, you've got one of the most sophisticated payers that understands the industry to the nth degree that's also falling victim to these issues.
Mm-hmm.
So we'll see. We'll see.
So is there anything named in the lawsuit? This is kind of a leading question. Is there anything named in the lawsuit that's a better alternative to the PBM model that we have?
Yeah. So they go through a plethora of different options and different alternatives that some people are using and seeing and benefiting from. One of the things that they talk about are transparent pharmacies. If you hear from some of those people, you'll hear about PBM 2.0. They're basically leveraging the thing that we have all used and have used for years, which are called computers, to actually do the work, to adjudicate the claims and figure out where the spend is. And if you have enough data, if you have your data that is available to you through the Consolidated Appropriations Act, if you get your data and you have enough of it and you have your sample, they can tailor make a formulary for you and separate the price of drugs from the adjudication of those claims. And they name a variety of options out there. Also, CapRx is one of them. Of course, it's on page 21. I had to point that out because, yes, I have a vested interest in that company. But that doesn't make it the wrong call. There are amazing options out there, and there are many others that are out there. I know that another company last week, oh gosh, I wish I could remember the name of Smith RX. I guess they got another big chunk of money to continue their operations. They're another good transparent pharmacy. There's a lot of options out there. And I'm one of them as well. Look up DBK Health. We're here in the Dallas-Fort Worth area. We can help you with your employee benefits as well. You know, as you know, I've been a money manager and a financial planner my whole life. I have been a fiduciary for years. I've had a certified financial planner from the American Board of Standards since 2004. I've been a fiduciary on the money side for years. I just didn't know this existed. And I don't think a lot of people that do what I do for a living do either. And I can't wait for them to find out, because when you realize as an independent insurance agent that you can contract with other companies and get the best deal for, by the way, how many other companies that you manage a 401k for, those are the same people you need to talk to start helping them with their pharmacy benefits. Give me a call. I'll give you the blueprint.
Johnson & Johnson's 40, I believe.
40?
Yep.
40th largest?
Yep.
On the S&P 500?
That's,
or does it say?
Fortune 500.
Fortune 500, yeah. So I guess some takeaways from this are that if you have, as I read the act again, you have RFPs coming up for employee benefit advisors. You want to make sure that you fill out a compensation disclosure form. We do have some other deadlines that are coming up pretty soon, but that's the first one. If you are planning on running an RFP for your PBM, make sure that you check different alternatives that are out there right now. We see Congress and we see all the legislators doing all sorts of fun stuff, and take an eye on this. Get ahead of the curve and get out of harm's way and ask for this data so you have it.
I mean, I could ask, I don't know how much tax question stuff you want to go into right now, but this was the first year that, I guess the first year that I went through and fully itemized all of my crypto assets on my tax form. And in the past years, it's just kind of been I really didn't sell a whole lot. So my company did, but not me personally.
Yeah.
So now that ETFs are involved with, the whole Bitcoin stuff, Maybe talk about the benefits and detriments of using an ETF to manage your Bitcoin.
I actually like
holdings
this topic. I don't have
simplify your
enough
taxes.
information on it. I could tell you that the ETF structure, one of the things that really makes an ETF compelling is that the way it is taxed. I don't know how they do it on the ETF side for crypto, but I remember hearing good things about it. So let me find out, and let's do an actual segment about that, because that's good stuff.
I mean, just what I do know, and we don't have to like say anything definitive now, but what I think was interesting is, like, for me, is I can now trade and have because I have like my actual stack that I own, right? And then I have stuff when I'm kind of trading against micro moves, or I want a dollar cost average some extra money into it.
Yeah.
I don't have to worry about that going on my taxes in a weird kind of, because crypto assets are typically set. Your most tax accountants I've ever talked to say treat it like you would treat gold, which I don't even know what that means, but I guess tax accountants do. But I do know that, like, there's a very easy button for, you know, doing stuff inside of my IRA or my 401k for buying Bitcoin in an ETF, and I don't have to worry about the taxes for it now.
Yeah. There's a dual sword to doing active trading in your retirement account. And it's a conundrum that, you know, comes down to, are you better or worse than the average investor in the market, right? And the reason being is, like, you cannot add additional funds to your IRA, right? So, like, if you put in 5,000 this year to a discretionary IRA and you lose 5,000 in the market, it's gone, right? You can't replenish that. You can't re-up. You can't any up. That's it. Now your pile of, you know, 20,000 goes down to 15,000. Now you have $15,000 in the pot to take big aggressive bets. That's why many financial advisors will say, look, you know, you've got 30 years to retirement. We can kind of redline it into some aggressive stuff, but it's not going to be individual securities for the most part, depending on the size of the portfolio, because we want that to be broadly diversified and grow over time so that you have something to use in retirement, right? Benefit to being aggressive in a 401k or a retirement plan is that there are no taxes. So if you bought crypto back in 2012 to now, well, not exactly, but, like, you know, if you bought it really low and it has had all these multiple returns in your retirement account, then there would be no taxes on it until you pulled it out, which is huge, right? Because you don't have to pay every year, every time you made a profit. If you were actively trading it, you wouldn't have to pay anything. But as I said, what if you're bad at trading?
Yeah. I guess for me, I'm the guy that's all, and I'm a specific type of person. There's more people like me, but I'm always going to be buying a certain amount of Bitcoin because, I don't know, maybe I'm a degen or I'm just a crypto guy, right? And so doing that inside of the 401k or the IRA is attractive for that reason.
Yeah, so that's when you're going to have to do that other math that you hate doing, which is, like, why would I do it there when I could do it at Fidelity and then let them keep track of the tax reporting, right? So that's what I'm saying. The issue. Yeah. Because if you use the ETFs, they're going to keep track of the accounting at the end of the year. They're going to send you a 1099, which will show you a gain or loss summary, which you would then add to your tax return. If you did it in a retirement account, you don't have to worry about it at all. And you can have those assets now in, you know, traditional brokerage accounts. I think that's going to make this a much more reasonable investment for retirement accounts because of that, you know, and broader adoption.
Yeah. But we absolutely should do a longer segment on all the other implications, because there's a bunch of good stuff there.
Right. And it was fun, just as these are little things that you can't really share except amongst friends. So I can tell the story without saying who was involved. So I have a good friend who's involved, very involved in the crypto space, has done really well in there, finance guy, money manager. And then I have another partner who also was at the end really taking advantage of the arbitrage opportunity that we have when we knew that it was days away from maybe it was, maybe it wasn't, and they were on the camp that they thought it was. And so they had taken position in GBTC and we're working the arbitrage to, you know, make the discount go away and play around with it. And they called me up after the fact, and they literally, I've got texts, I've got proof. My guy top ticked GBTC. He was the top tick.
Oh,
before
wow.
it actually came down.
That's awesome.
So it's fun to be able to say, that was it. Yeah. So we got it. We got it. I know who that guy is. I've got proof. So that was fun. That was fun. This is how, financial, institutional investors brag amongst each other.
Right, of course. Yeah.
It's not how much. It's like, I got the top tick.
Holding up the fish in front of the camera.
That's right. That's right. It was this. I'm telling you, it was this. That was good. That was fun.
I think at some point, maybe today's not the show for it, but going back to the Johnson & Johnson topic, we should probably go through and like define all the terms. Just kind of do a series on all that PBM stuff, because there's a lot of like industry specific language in there that.
What a great idea. What a great idea. They mention in the case so many different things that I've heard Mark Cuban complain about. I complain about. People in the industry that talk on conference calls laugh about it. I went to a pre-bid opening yesterday for the city of Capel, and they were lovely. They had 2 people from procurement there. They had 2 people from the employee benefit group there, and they were as open as possible about what they were doing. They're a growing community, which is beautiful, surrounding DFW airport area. And it's obvious they really care about their employees. Everybody there was so sweet. I've been to several of these meetings, and this was the nicest. They were just so sweet. They were happy we were there. There were, a room full of consultants from Brown & Brown, from McGriff, from USI, from Marsh McLennan, all of the big firms, and they all had really good representation. I was very impressed with one of the guys. His name was Clint. I can't remember which company, but like, he should get this plan. He should get this bid. I am more interested, as you know, 99% of the time in PBM, in pharmacy benefit management. It's where I think that I can do the most good as somebody who can be an ERISA consultant and can actually be a co-fiduciary on a plan to help a CHRO, give them that golden bridge in order to talk to the C-level executives that actually know what a P&L is. I could help you with that. But in order to do that, you need to understand the language. So I agree, like they use WAC. That's one of them, wholesale acquisition cost, made up number, right? Then they use MAC list. Sounds terrible. Maximum allowable. Maximum allowable. You've got so many different things. This is my favorite. AWP. AWP. In the industry, it's ain't what's paid. Oh. But it's average wholesale price. So there are so many of these definitions and these words that are in the contracts, but they're loopholes for the entire complex to hide money from you and take advantage of the plans. Yesterday, in that same meeting, someone mentioned that they were happy because they're generic. They don't have to pay anything for it. And that makes them happy. And while in many cases that's great, but why don't you look at that contract before you make that comment and see what your company is paying? Because if it's higher than the NADAC price, then your company paid more than it should have or could have. NADAC. This one always gets me. National Average Drug Acquisition Cost. NADAC. I have been studying for the test.
I mean, this this sort of thing reminds me. So I obviously, you know me, I've been a lifelong geek. I've been playing and building computers since I was, Jacob's age, like 14, 16 years old. And whenever I got into covering enterprise technology as a journalist, I was very intimidated by the language that the analysts used. I thought, oh God, I don't know what a CRM is. I don't know what does Oracle even do? Mm-hmm. Like, what is all this like made up? And it really was just made up language for things that I already knew, right? Mm-hmm. Like, block storage. It's just a hard drive, mm-hmm. Like it's the CRM. It's just a contact database. But it actually set me back a couple of years. In terms of I've got to learn all this language. I've got to pay my dues because I obviously don't know as much as all these analysts standing around me. Mm-hmm. When in fact I did. Mm-hmm. It's just, it needed to be demystified. So I think that's going to be a great public service for a lot of enterprise players for you to talk about this stuff in plain English.
Yeah, and that's important, I think, is understanding any language. I like to say, like in finance, we have a language, right? And in computers, you have a language.
Mhm.
Like if you understand the language, you're going to understand the industry, period. So it's just a matter of learning and understanding the language in order to learn the industry. And this is why I think it's very critical, and this is on a different side story, but like it's critical for you to go and get broad exposure to these things, whether it's by going to college and going and taking a lot of classes or getting a lot of jobs and finding where you fit, because ultimately you're going to end up doing something in an industry where you understand the language the most, because that's really all it is. Everything else is keying in stuff on a computer or talking on the phone about it, right? Legal is going to end up doing the contract anyway, right? So you just need to understand the language for the industry that you want to work in, because that language is going to define what you need to know. And so make the right decision up front for all those college students out there. Learn the language that you want to learn. Take the classes that are going to give you the broadest exposure to figure out which language that is. I can assure you, for me, it's not a foreign language. I can't do any of this. Hey, you. Thanks for joining us for another episode of Money in the Bank with Frank. If you like that, hit the subscribe button. We have plenty more content like that on the Merge TV, and we look forward to seeing you next time.